Most people believe self discipline is a personal trait. You either have it or you don't. If you wake up early, stay consistent, and follow through, you're disciplined. If you don't, the assumption is simple. You're just lazy. That belief feels true, but it's misleading. Let me explain. If discipline were really about willpower, why do so many people who genuinely want to change so fall back into the same habits? The reason is that motivation is unreliable, but environment is constant. Research in psychology shows that people are far more likely to repeat behaviors that are supported by their surroundings than behaviors that rely on internal effort alone. Most of us know how it feels like to promise ourselves that this time will be different, only to feel frustrated when nothing changes. That cycle is exhausting and discouraging. Think about a real world example most people relate to going to the gym. Almost everyone knows they should exercise. Many people even enjoy it once they're there, yet most people quit within weeks. This happens because once the initial motivation fades, there's no structure holding that habit into place. No one notices if you skip, no one expects you to show up, and with no accountability, quitting becomes the easiest option. No structure, no standards, and no pressure. Over time, discipline doesn't disappear, it decays, quietly until giving up feels normal. Here's the truth most people want you to Here's the truth most people avoid. Trying to build discipline alone goes against human nature. Humans adapt to what's normal around them. If procrastination and excuses are accepted, those behaviors spread, not because people are weak, but because people are social. On the Andrew Huberman podcast, author James Clear said that the most effective way to change the habit is to join a community where the behavior you want is already normal. When you surround yourself with people who live the habits you are aiming for, change becomes easier and far less dependent on constant motivation. Real change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when the behavior you are trying to build is normal, where you spend your time. When focus, action, and self respect are normal, you rise to meet them. That's the power of the environment. That's how people are built, not alone, but among other people who refuse to let each other decay. Alex Hormozy once said that if you want to change your actions, the easiest thing you can do is to change your environment. When you realize this, it can be relieving. It means failure isn't a personal flaw, it's a predictable outcome of the environment you are in. Now, compare that to environments where discipline is the norm. Athletes don't rely on motivation, they rely on teammates and expectations. Students work harder when surrounded by others who take learning seriously. Same person, just a different environment. Instead of asking why can't you stay disciplined, a better question is to ask what kind of environment are you choosing every day? When the environment changes, behavior follows. Clear standards, shared accountability, consistent expectations. That is how identity is built. Motivation fades, but structure holds the line. Imagine how different growth would feel if discipline stopped being a daily battle and started feeling natural. The most reliable form of self discipline isn't willpower, it's structure, it's standards, it's the people you surround yourself with. Choose your environment carefully because over time, when you tolerate, whatever you tolerate becomes your standard. If nobody calls you out, excuses survive. If nobody notices effort, effort fades. If nobody expects more, average becomes comfortable. This is why discipline feels so hard when you are alone. You're fighting against silence, and silence favors comfort. In environments with no expectations, discipline feels extreme. Waking up early feels unnecessary. Consistency feels optional. Following through feels like extra work. But in environments where discipline is normal, the opposite happens. Not showing up is uncomfortable. Skipping feels noticeable. Letting yourself slip feels out of place. That's the difference structure makes. Discipline starts feeling like resistance and starts feeling like alignment. You are no longer forcing yourself to act against your surrounding. You are acting in harmony with them. This is why people change faster when they change who they are around, why habits stick when they are shared, why standards rise when they are enforced collectively. Identity isn't built in moments of motivation, it's built through repeated behavior that's expected, reinforced, and observed. When discipline is visible, it becomes contagious. When effort is normal, laziness stands out. When growth is a standard, stagnation feels unnatural. And this applies as much to bad environments as it does to good ones. If you are trying to quit video games, but all your friends spend every night gaming, improvement becomes harder than it needs to be. Not because you are weak, but because temptation is normalized. If you are trying to build focus, but the people you around you scroll endlessly, joke about wasting time, and avoid responsibility, that behavior starts to feel acceptable. You might say you are choosing differently, but you are still soaking in the same standards. The same applies digitally. Your phone is an environment, your feed is an environment, your notifications are environments. If your digital world consistently rewards distraction, outrage, and instant gratification, discipline has to fight upstream. If every spare moment is filled with short form content, dopamine spikes, and endless consumption, deep work starts to feel uncomfortable. Silence feels boring, focus feels unnatural. On the other hand, When your digital environment reinforces learning, execution, and long-term thinking, behavior shifts without force. What you see repeatedly becomes what you tolerate. What you tolerate becomes what you accept, and what you accept becomes who you are. So the real question isn't whether you are disciplined or not. The real question is whether your environment makes discipline inevitable or makes quitting easy. Because in the long run, you will not outperform your environment. You will adapt to it every time.